At the outset, I would like to offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagavan. Dear listeners, greetings to all of you from Prashanti Nilayam. Now, this is my 13th talk in my current series based on the life, the teachings, and the message of Swami. And as you are aware, I am presently describing to you the early years in the new phase of the Sai Avatar, by which I mean the period which started when Swami moved to the new mandir, that is to say, in November 1950. Although it was not quite so evident at that time, this new phase marked a distinct change in that Swami had clearly moved from the waiting and the Leela phase that was active in the Pathamandiram to a new mode which I might call the mission mode. Thus, 1950, the year 1950, is when one might have said that the mission got started. That aspect of the avatar would become more and more evident as my narration proceeds into future episodes. If from today's vantage point, we look back at the period 1950 to 1990, which marks, in my opinion, a very distinctive phase, there are many different and clearly distinguishable strands. And yet, among these so-called different strands, there is also a common theme running through all of them. Now, one nice way of describing this would be to compare Swami's incarnation as a whole and Swami's incarnation as a whole to a mighty river, like the Ganges say. Now, if you do that, then the period I am now dealing with, namely 1950 to 1990, could be compared to mountain streams that originate in the Himalayas. These streams are different, but they all carry water. That is the common thing. It is in that same sense, Swami's missions are seemingly different at the superficial level, but they all have the same undercurrent, namely pure love and unlimited compassion. Another interesting comparison that one can make would be to the feather of a peacock. Now, if you examine the feather very closely, you would of course see many beautiful colors. You will see them as different colors, but when you see the feather as a whole, together all these colors make one gorgeous feather with wonderful spectrum that fills us with wonder. It is in that sense we should view the various aspects and the phases of the avatar rather than as individual incidents and stories and leelas, episodes and so on. And if you look carefully, all these different individual episodes, stories, whatever you want to call them, link back to the explicit and emphatic declarations that Swami made in the letter which he wrote in May 1947. I have made earlier references to this letter, and I believe I also made a reference in my last talk. And in this last talk, I told you about interviews. In fact, it was focused mostly on interviews. Now, on the face of it, darshans, bhajans, and interviews might all seem distant from practical missions of Swami, like establishing a school, a hospital, doing a water project, and so on. So it would appear to us, ordinary mortals, who always try to see everything, including the divine, through the prism of diversity. But for Swami, all these different activities, in all these activities, the common goal was to make people as happy as possible and direct them to the path of goodness. Whether he gave darshan or an interview or a discourse or gave them some job to do in the hospital or in the organization or whatever it is, Swami was always trying to do something which would make people happy and lead a good life. That is the common undercurrent, and that we should never miss. If we miss that, we will see Swami's avatar as a set of disjointed jigsaw puzzle pieces. Now, there is a particular reason why I am offering this special background, and believe it or not, that relates to two very different incidents that happened recently. Some of you might argue, listen, you are supposed to be telling us about what Swami did way back in the early 50s. Why are you then diverting attention to incidents that happened within the last 2 weeks? Well, dear listener, I am doing so for a good reason. You see, Swami's missions are based on eternal values. They therefore go way, way back, and they would also extend far into the future. In that sense, if I tell you something about what happened just recently, that also links to what Swami started after moving to the new Mandir or Prashanti Nilayam. And in as much as Prashanti Nilayam was fully connected to the incidents I am about to describe now, I do believe I am not deviating too much from the core of my narration, which is to tell you about the life as well as the mission of our beloved Bhagwan. I am sure I am making some of you very tense and quite a bit of you rather irritated as well. With apologies in case I have done so, let me now come to the first of the two incidents on my list today. The first incident refers to a rather nasty train accident that occurred in the early hours on the morning of May 22nd at 3:20 a.m. to be precise. At that time, an express train from Hampi and bound for Bangalore jumped a red light close to Penukonda railway station and rammed into a stationary goods or freight train standing on the same track some distance away. Penukonda, by the way, is a railway station not far from here. And in the old days, it was to that railway station everybody had to come if they wanted to come to Puttaparthi by train. This goes back way back to 1945, 6 and so forth. And if you recall my narration of the construction of this mandir here, you would recall that the rail girders were brought to the Penukonda railway station. And the accident I am talking about, which occurred in the early hours of May 22nd, occurred near this railway station. And that happened when a passenger train that was coming very fast skipped a red light, continued, and rammed into a freight train that was standing on the same track some distance away. Now, the impact was very great, as a result of which the first 4 bogies, or cars as they would say in America, completely derailed, and one of them also caught fire. About 25 passengers were killed, and 16 bodies of those who were killed were completely charged because of the fire. I do not know the exact number of people injured, but I believe it's about 60, and 8 of them were injured very seriously. Shocked survivors said it was an unbearable and gory sight to see fellow passengers burning and screaming for help. And remember, this happened at 3:30 in the morning when it was dark. In the midst of this terrible tragedy, one person in Penukonda station happened to have the cell numbers of various district officials, and he had the presence of mind to immediately call all these big officials, and help soon arrived. Help also came from a large number of Sevadals in neighboring small towns, about which I shall say something more shortly. Coming now to the injured, The 8 who were injured seriously were all moved swiftly to Swami's hospital right in Puttaparthi, and they were promptly attended to. By Swami's grace, all of them, I believe, have recovered, and 1 or 2 have even been discharged. I am glad to announce that Radio Sai will shortly produce a detailed documentary on this accident and the seva done by both the Sevadals as well as the doctors in the hospital. Please do not miss it. This documentary would feature not only photographs of the accident, etc., but also the interviews which our team did with the patients in the hospitals, the doctors, and the Sevadals. But for now, before I move on, I should not forget to mention that over 100 Sevadal volunteers from 6 different neighboring towns rushed to help and did so in many different ways. By the way, some years ago, one night around 8 o'clock or so, a train was speeding through the state of Orissa when it suddenly met with a serious accident. And that happened while the train was passing by a small town. Now this railway track was near a samiti where bhajans were in progress at that time. As soon as the accident occurred, the cries of the passengers reached the bhajan singers, and they immediately rushed to help the injured and those afflicted in many different ways. Swami says, "When you are in distress, I shall come to you." And indeed he does so through his instruments. And in that sense, Swami's mission is without an end. Okay, let me now move on to the second event to which I wish to make a reference in this broadcast. And that relates to 2 young children, 1 boy and 1 girl, both from Pakistan, and both with heart problems. By Swami's grace, they managed to come all the way to Bangalore because they heard that this was the only place where they could get free treatment. Imagine that. Pakistan and India are supposed to be, always at loggerheads, but yet the hand of the divine reaches out across the border, because for God there are no borders, and he helps anyone who calls his name. Now, one of the 2 patients, a girl, had a hole in her heart. She has been operated and has returned, while the other patient, a boy, is due to undergo surgery shortly. This is in the Bangalore hospital. In fact, if all goes well, the surgery might be over by the time this program goes on the air. And believe me, Radio Sai will give you a full account of these 2 patients from across the border. I am sure most of you, while thrilled by these stories, would nevertheless say, but listen, this is Swami's hospital. Is this not a daily occurrence there? Are not thousands of patients given a new lease of life every year when they were abandoned by everyone else? And has this not been going on for decades? Yes, indeed. That exactly is the case. But you know what? The sad part of it is that not many are aware of it in this vast country, including, I regret to say, many in the devotee community. It is true that almost every single person who comes to Prashanti has to go past Swami's hospital. And when the person returns, this person has to go once again past the same hospital. But let me ask you, how many of these people who come and go know anything in detail about the hospital unless they have been there as a patient or have been with someone who was treated there? Very few. I can tell you, I have been here from the day the Puttaparthi hospital was inaugurated. I have gone to that hospital any number of times, both in connection with Radio Sai work and some technical work technical projects I have done for the university. I also spent nearly 40 days there when my wife was terminally ill in the year 2000. And yet, I cannot say I know all about this hospital, which, by the way, is one of the standing monuments to the miracle of Swami's pure love. Which brings me to my next important point. Now, during the recent Buddha Purnima celebrations, I had the opportunity to meet and address a fairly big group that came for Buddha Purnima from many overseas countries: Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and so on. A Q&A session took place, and if I am not mistaken, that Q&A session has also been broadcast by Radio Sai. Now, during that Q&A session, one of the questions I was asked was the following: who is the successor of Sai? My answer was simple. I said, kings and emperors have successors, but not avatars. Swami was our divine father, and all of us are his children, even if we do not acknowledge it. Thus, Swami's legacy comes to every one of us, and we must be the proud inheritors of the legacy which he has bequeathed to us. Being proud of our heritage and the legacy of Swami is one side of the story. But let me remind you, with inheritance also comes a major responsibility, namely that of sustaining the missions of Swami. And one of those missions happens to be the hospitals established by Swami. Now, on the average, the Puttaparthi Hospital, with about 5 specialties, treats about 13,000 inpatients a year, while the Bangalore Hospital, which offers patients with heart and neurological ailments, that is to say, heart problems, brain problems, and spine problems, the Bangalore Hospital treats about 6,000 inpatients a year, every year. So if you add these two, it makes it close to 20,000 patients. 20,000 patients who come with a hole in the heart, with a major spinal problem, bad fractures that sustained in an accident and that have not healed, and a very bad condition needing major reconstructive surgery due to fire accident earlier, and so on. All these people come here. And now treating such people as an inpatient always means doing some kind of a surgical procedure. Before that, there are diagnostics. And after the procedure, the patient has to stay in the ICU sometimes for a few days. And after that, definitely in the general ward till the patient is ready to be discharged. Now, during this period, which may be anything from 5 to 10 days or even more, the patient does not pay a single penny. I repeat, not a single cent. Most of these 20,000 patients who come to Swami's hospital earn less than $2 a day, which means they are downright utterly poor or belong to the lower middle class. In today's India, which is quite expensive, I can assure you, this means that these patients would have had nowhere else to go and either faced lifelong disability or even death, but for Swami's hospital. Now tell me, where in the world does a private charitable trust hospital offer this kind of totally free health care to the destitute? That is the legacy Bhagwan has left to us, his children. And the question before us is, are we ready to keep these torches of love burning brightly, in fact, even more brightly than before? Dear listener, is there any other better way of proclaiming the glory and also the validity as well as the relevance of pure love in today's busy world, where people have no time even to spell the word compassion? I'm mentioning all this because doing this kind of seva costs money. Now, as long as Swami was physically with us, his personal magic drew substantial number of people who contributed very generously. But now the situation has changed. In fact, during the Q&A session, one of the questions that was asked me was, now that Swami is not physically here, why should we at all come to Prashanti? I shall not repeat in full the answer I gave, but this much I shall say. This much I shall say. All of us, no matter where we are, all of us have a duty and a responsibility to sustain Swami's hospital in whatever way we can. They simply must not be allowed to languish. Let us not forget that Swami spent nearly a month in the hospital here in Puttaparthi, as if to make us remember that the hospital was important and did matter. In fact, the need to sustain the hospital is more than ever before. For did not Swami tell us, your life must be my message? And now, let me mention something else related to Swami's hospital, which, believe it or not, has something to do with Bollywood. I'm sure you're wondering whether I've gone bananas, but just bear with me for a few moments. I lost touch with the movie world more than 30 or 35 years ago. Even so, I have heard that lately a new Bollywood star named Aamir Khan has come into the limelight. And he has been also raising a lot of buzz lately, not necessarily through his movies, but in an entirely different manner. It seems that Mr. Khan has recently started a TV talk show that focuses on burning social issues of a kind that are normally far from the minds of those who are well off and live in bubbles. There have, of course, been movie stars in the past who have been socially active, very active in fact. But what is different in this case is that Mr. Khan is using the media to focus attention on such problems, instead of just going into the villages and working there, here and there, whenever time permitted. And now, when a young and upcoming movie star shows this kind of burning passion for the downtrodden, it is quite different that the program he produces is substantially different from what TV stations normally broadcast. And they also do some socially relevant programs, but that is just to project their image as being socially concerned. They are really not concerned. Now, getting back to Mr. Khan, apparently his latest show was on healthcare. And there were, I gather, many panelists, including leading doctors and so on. Now, along the line, Mr. Khan happens to have asked a simple question, which is there no hospital in India to which poor people with major ailments can go and get free treatment? Guess what? The response he got was a deafening silence. This, despite the presence of a well-known doctor from Bangalore who knows very well about Swami's hospital in Bangalore. Imagine that. Incidentally, a couple of years ago, once when I mentioned the name of this celeb doctor to our Dr. Hegde, who till recently was the director of the Whitefield Hospital, when I mentioned about him, Dr. Hegde's comment was cryptic. He just said 4 words. Dr. Hegde said, "He talks, we do." It's as simple as that. Now, coming back to Mr. Aamir Khan's show, what we notice is that although the hospital of Swami here in Puttaparthi has been in existence for 20 years and the hospital in Bangalore for 10 years, and although at present roughly 20,000 inpatients are being treated free every year, none of the people in the upper strata seem to know anything about these hospitals. The poor know about Swami's hospitals because for them it's a matter of life and death. But for the rich, well, they are too busy. Which brings me to my point. Now, dear listener, we don't have to bother whether the rich know about Swami's hospitals or not. But what we have to remember is, for the poor, this hospital is the last refuge. And as the inheritors, I hope as the proud inheritors of Swami's legacy, the responsibility of sustaining this hospital falls squarely on our shoulders. More specifically, all of us in various ways must make sure that these hospitals, which are like the crown jewels, do not languish for want of funds. I shall talk on some other occasion about the quantum of funds needed to sustain our hospitals, how these funds might be sent, etc. But for now, please understand the following. A, little drops of water can and do make a big ocean. So we don't have to be very apologetic even if we send a small contribution. They all add up. B, all we have to do is to give up a bit of what we spend on things we buy but we really do not need, so that we may give the money so saved to the hospitals. You don't have to go out of the way, in order to save money. All we have to do is give up some luxury which we don't need, and the money saved can be given to the hospital. Once again, we owe it to Swami, especially now that we have become the caretakers of its institutions. And let us at this juncture not forget the very large number of doctors, nurses, and other staff who work in the hospitals. And let us also not forget the central trust that manages the hospital. And there are many of our boys who serve in these central trusts and various Swami's institutions. All of them are also serving Swami and helping to sustain Swami's institutions. And I mention this because these doctors, these nurses, and our boys who work in these various institutions, all of them can go outside and get much higher salaries. And yet they are staying here, not because of salaries, but because they want to serve Swami. Let me tell you, the very fact that I am able to broadcast and speak to you is because so many of Swami's boys consider it their duty to keep Radio Sai running. I tell you, all these people, our boys here and those who work in the trust office, in the hospital, etc., can easily get 5 times the salary they get here. They are not here for the salary. They came many years ago when Swami was here. And they are continuing because they love Swami and wish to serve him, irrespective of whether he is physically here or not. In other words, for all these boys here in the Central Trust and in the hospitals, Swami continues to be the presiding deity and the guiding spirit. In the same way, may I humbly request all of you out there to support the institutions of Swami in the same spirit and in all ways possible. I consider this so important that I shall deal with this theme separately. But for now, let me, just to convince you that I have not forgotten the narrative part of the series, go back to the early years, that is to say, the 50s. As I explained during the last 2 talks, after moving to the new mandir in 1950, Swami vigorously institutionalized darshan and added 2 beautiful flavors to it, namely the bhajans and the interviews. In addition to that, Swami also traveled to various places, but almost always only when some devotee or the other made a specific request. But once he went to a place, Swami often took charge and made the trip memorable. However, at the end of the day, he had only one goal, which was to make devotees happy. If he could make devotees happy, he would use any method. That is the important point. Talking of tours, Kasturi puts it very nicely, and the essence of what he says is, Swami is not enamored by tours to see places or admire scenery, nor does he have the urge to go on pilgrimages. For after all, he is the goal of all pilgrimages. It's interesting that Kasturi makes a reference to pilgrimages because Swami was often asked by devotees to take them to holy shrines like Kashi or Badrinath or whatever. When I first read about this, I was taken aback. I told myself, what kind of nonsense is this? If Swami was God, where was the need to go on a pilgrimage when he was standing there right in front? That is exactly what Kasturi was saying. Swami was the goal of all pilgrimages. But then, that is what Maya is. And Swami was so kind that just to please devotees, he led groups to many places of pilgrimage. And one such pilgrimage was to the holy shrine of Badrinath. And that pilgrimage was undertaken in the year 1961. And I am now going to quote what Kasturi writes about this in his famous narrative, Satyam Sivam Sundaram. About the Badrinath visit, Kasturi says, the visit to Badrinath was first mooted by Baba 3 years ago. I believe that would mean the year 1958. The visit was mooted by Baba 3 years ago at a bhajan session held on the sands of the Chitravati. He said then that he would take the bhaktas to the place where he was doing tapas. And we were wonderstruck, for that was the first time we had ever heard of tapas associated with his earthly career. At least I was a bit confused, for I was till then convinced that Baba indulged in no tapas, here or anywhere, corporeally or extracorporeally. But I did not pursue the matter and try to get an answer. So you see, this is the remark that Kasturi makes about what Swami said on the sands of the Chitravati in 1958. He was not sure that Swami was really going to take them all to Badrinath or anything like that. But in 1961, on account of a lot of pestering by many devotees, Swami decided to lead a group to Badrinath. Kasturi has described it for us. And so what I am going to do is simply read out what he has written. The visit became a certainty and plans were ready and the party fixed before the end of May. That is to say, Swami named all the people who would be going with him. This is typical of all the tours that he organized. And I know about it because I have gone with Swami so many times to Kodaikanal and places like that. Baba greeted them all, that is to say the participants, with his darshan at Itiraj Kalyana Mandapam in Alwarpet, Madras on the 7th day of June and sent them by train to Delhi, where he promised to bless them personally since he proposed to fly to the capital the very next day. The train reached Delhi about 6 hours late, and when the hungry, tired and distracted devotees arrived at last, they found Baba shedding cool comfort and consolation and strength by his smile and his motherly attention. The next day at Haridwar, the governor of Uttar Pradesh, Dr. B. Ramakrishna Rao, joined Baba, for he too had planned a visit to Badrinath. I should mention that Swami often used to talk about Dr. Burugulu Ramakrishna Rao, who was one of his close devotees. At first he was governor of Kerala, Swami went to Kerala at that time. Then he went to UP, and it was during Dr. Ramakrishna's stay in UP that Swami took this Badri trip. On 11 June, Baba and His Excellency attended the evening Arati to Ganga Mata at Brahmakund. The vast assemblage of pilgrims got the darshan of Baba at that holy spot. Baba blessed the priests and the archaks with the vibhuti that he materialized, and he sprinkled it on the waters of the Ganges as also on those around him. That night, Baba called together the devotees who were to accompany him to Badri and reminded them of the rare privilege they had won. You have the good luck of proceeding with the manifested form to the unmanifested form, whereas usually people pray to the unmanifested form immanent in the idol to manifest itself before their eye so that they might win the fruit of their sadhana, he declared. Now this is a very interesting point. This is a very interesting point that Kasturi makes. What do we do normally? We go to a temple, and in a temple there is an idol. We pray to the temple, oh God, Venkatesa or Shiva or Narayana or whoever it is, please appear before me. Kasturi says, in this case, God, as Sri Satya Sai, was standing in front of the devotees, and devotees are telling him, God, please take us to a temple so that we can see you as an idol. But that's the irony of Maya. Anyway, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Let me go on with the reading. We were thrilled with joy at the revelation. Baba then described in great detail the sacred shrine to which he was leading us, as if he knew every nook and corner of the holy area. When he disclosed that Narayana was there depicted as Tapomudra, as doing penance, and explained that it was called Badrikashram on account of this, I began to see light. And the doubt that assailed me on the Chitravati sands 3 years ago about Satya Sai Baba and tapas melted away in a blaze of joy. Baba also spoke of the subsidiary shrines in and around Badrinath, and also of certain unknown aspects of his sacredness. For example, no guidebook has published the information that Sankaracharya brought 5 lingams from Kailas, which he then installed, one each at Badri, Puri, Sringeri, Dwaraka and Chidambaram. But Baba revealed this fact that night. Baba planted in the heart of every pilgrim the mood of prayer and brotherhood and loving service. From Haridwar to Badrinath, a distance of nearly 182 miles, every inch of the road is saturated with penance and prayer, asceticism and aspiration. Myth, legend and history are woven around every spot, stories of sages and saints, of sacrifice and sadhana, of renunciation and rigorous ordeals. The pilgrim is shown places where Shiva, Parvati, Rama and other gods did penance, where Parasurama performed expiatory rites, where Narasimha cooled his ferocity, where Arjuna won his weapons, Karna his prowess, and Narada his Veena, and places where Kanva nurtured Shakuntala and Narada received the Ashtakshari. It's a narrow and tortuous road cut on the face of the cliff above the roaring waters of the Ganga, the Alakananda flowing in the ravine below. The party accompanied Baba in full confidence and faith, regardless of the calamities that lurked around every curve of the road and the landslides and landslips that happened, but could not delay their progress. Baba announced that the rains would be held off until the party returns to Rishikesh, and the clouds obeyed. He willed, and the party returned without a scratch or a prick for anyone. The line of cars, jeeps and buses coiled round the meandering road and reached Devaprayag, the confluence of Bhagirathi and Alakananda, at about noon. One of the purposes of the tour that Baba had planned was to instill in the minds of his devotees and through them all faith in the scriptures that speak of the sanctity of certain places. He always emphasizes Shastra Viswasa and Daiva Viswasa, that is to say, faith in the scriptures and faith in God, both of which are equally important. So he dictated everyone to have a dip in the sacred waters before proceeding to Srinagar, the ancient capital of Garhwal Rajas. The party halted there for the night. This Srinagar, by the way, is different from the Srinagar in Kashmir. The people of Srinagar, who knew the arrival of Baba in their midst, gathered in thousands to welcome him, and at night they organized a program of Pahari and Tibetan dances, depicting the simple hilarity of the hardy mountaineers and hillmen and tribes. Baba blessed them and gave each of them the unique chance of his darshan. On the 13th of June, the vehicles moved towards Joshimath, where the motor road ends, and from where the party had to walk 18 miles or 29 kilometers to Badrinath. That day, Baba stopped at Nandaprayag, the famous Kanvashram, and directed the devotees to bathe at the confluence of the Alakananda and Nandakini. Joshimath is the place where Shankaracharya wrote his celebrated commentaries on the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita and the Brahma Sutra. It is also the winter headquarters of the Mutt, which he established at Badrinath to counteract Buddhist influences that threatened to percolate through the Mala Pass of the Himalayas, just 7 miles away from Badri. Who knows whether Baba's own trek to Badri was connected with the sinister danger to Sanatana Dharma that is now threatening from the same direction through the same road. On the 14th of June, early in the morning, the mules and horses were loaded with luggage, and the dandis for ages were booked, and the party started off in high spirits behind Baba, who led them along the sacred road. 18 miles or 29 kilometers of narrow, congested road of rubble and stone, trodden into elusive smoothness by millions of pious feet, of gasping climbs and reeling inclines, of danger from falling stones announced prominently and frequently on boards on the road. The rapture of snow-capped peaks ever on the horizon, the cheer of the cool torrent ever in the air, broad glaciers descending foolhardily down the valleys into the Alakananda itself, snow lying across the pilgrim path, streams of pilgrims from all the quarters accosting each other in the language of brotherhood, though the words might feel a little strange. Pilgrims resolutely pulling themselves along on foot, the old and even the decrepit with faith as their only stick, some sitting pathetic and forlorn in the dandis carried by perspiring hillmen, some swaying helplessly in kandis tied to backs of men, some perched on ponies that trot on perilous edge of the precipice, as if they are determined to commit disaster. Baba walked the distance 17.6 kilometers to Lam Bagar on the first day and halted there on the night. On the 15th, the remaining distance was covered before noon, in spite of the pretty stiff climb that it involved. The devotees persuaded Baba to ride a horse, but to their great disappointment, he dismounted very soon and resumed walking. Baba encouraged everyone along the arduous path, watching for signs of exhaustion. He directed some to enter the dandis, some to mount ponies, some to put a brake on their over-enthusiasm, some to sip a little water, or for some, he even materialized the unfailing specific vibhuti. And this not merely for the members of his party. Far from it. There were many who sat exhausted on the roadside, and Baba walked to them and revived them by his sweet glance, words, and his vibhuti. One picture will be ever green in my memory. A mile from this side, from Lam Bagar, Baba is sitting on a rock with devotees all round him, listening to some Puranic story with which he was refreshing us for the climb, freshening us and preparing us for the climb ahead. Pilgrims were streaming along the road in front, and many passed, too engrossed with their own pains to recognize the Lord within sight. But one woman came, saw, and was conquered. She turned aside and fell at the holy feet. She had the sixth sense to recognize that the feet were holy. She was an adventurous soul, and she discovered that Baba was on his way to Badrinath. So, in spite of the exhaustion she had been reduced to by that long trek, she entreated she might be taken as one of Baba's party. And what do you think was Baba's reply? You have had your darshan here. I was waiting for you to give darshan. What more do you have to get there when you come there with me? Go back, be happy, take this prasad with you. Truly, no one can come near him without his grace or without his sankalpa. The 15th and 16th days of June were rather quiet days when Baba allowed the devotees to perform puja in the Badrinath temple. He himself was busy with interviews to the many officers, civil and military, and the members of the temple committee who had heard of his divinity and who came to have his darshan. On the 17th evening, Baba attended the Aarati at the temple. He then drove to the Badrinath hospital, where he inaugurated the newly installed X-ray unit. The avatar of the Lord, whose X-rays penetrate even the darkest recesses of our hearts, from whom nothing can be concealed, pressed a button to take the first photograph, X-ray photograph, of the physical interior of the medical officer in charge, who insisted that he must be the first patient. I have seen a photograph of Swami near this X-ray machine. The 17th of June was in fact the day of days, the day selected by Baba for re-infusing spiritual efficacy for charging the rundown battery. During the morning Abhishekam at the shrine, Baba was sitting facing the idol, materialized a beautiful four-armed Narayana idol with Shankha, Chakra, Gada and Padma, an idol of supreme craftsmanship, perhaps sublimating in that form the Narayana Tejas or Shakti before him. Then in a trice, Swami created a golden lotus, 1,000-petal one, lovely beyond all imagination. We all wondered why the lotus appeared. But before our wonder could find expression in a gasp, Baba waved his hand again. This time there was a lingam in his palm. Evidently the same lingam that Shankaracharya had installed inside the Badri temple. This last he placed in the center of the lotus, and with both the lotus and the idol placed on a silver plate, Baba came away from the temple to the Dharamshala or Chowltree where we were all staying. There, Baba directed bhajans to be sung, while the praise of Narayana was also being sung. He rose from the floor saying, "Now we shall consecrate this lingam again." He showed the lingam to everyone, bringing it himself near each person and pointing to the translucence of the material and the form of an eye that was mysteriously incorporated inside the lingam. He called it the Netra Lingam from Kailas. Materializing a silver vessel full of holy water from Gangotri, as Baba announced, Baba himself performed the Abhishekam to the idol, while the devotees recited Rudram and Narayana Suktam and Pushya Sakstam. After Abhisheka, Puja, and so on, after Abhisheka came the Puja, and Baba materialized for the Puja 108 bilva leaves made of gold. They fell in a scintillating shower from his divine hand onto the silver plate beneath. By the way, I have seen some of these golden bilva leaves, which are kept by some of those devotees who went with him in 1961. Again the hand was waved. This time the shower consisted of a heap of flowers with the dew still fresh upon them, tiny bits of fragrant fluff picked with care from 100 little tropical plants. The puja was performed on behalf of all present by Dr. B. Ramakrishna Rao, appropriate mantrams being recited by the devotees. The Netra Lingam was then sent back into the secret niche where it was installed by Shankaracharya 1200 years ago, as Baba explained to us. And how was it sent back? It just suddenly disappeared. It had been drawn for a certain purpose, that purpose was being fulfilled, and with the completion of the aforesaid ritual, it had been charged with immense potency and sent back. The temple was now consecrated anew by the manifested form himself. In pursuance of his mission of Dharma Sthapana, which involved the promotion of faith in the Shastras, Baba directed every one of his party to offer oblations to the dead at noon at Brahmakalpa. Baba always harps on the need to remember parents with gratitude, because parents are responsible for everyone's existence, for all the chance one has got for struggling upwards towards salvation, for all the joy of sadhana and satsang. Though the departed souls might not be actually in the lokas you locate or anxiously awaiting the offers you make, it is your duty to honor them, to remember them whenever you are yourself happy or elevated, and offer them reverential homage. Baba has said this very often. So when devotees went to the holy spot where bhog offering of Badrinarayana is offered to the mains, Baba himself proceeded there and blessed everyone while the ceremony was being performed. There were some among the party who were handicapped, and according to strict Shastric rules, they were not allowed to offer oblations to the departed. And Baba very graciously collected them together, took them to the river Alaknanda for a ritual that he had prepared for them. He took from the surging torrent a glass of water, but with the divine alchemy of that hand had produced inside that glass, even as it came from the river, a big cube of vibhuti with the mystical symbol Om carved on one side. Tapping the side of the glass, and lo, the water had many grains of til flowing on it, till considered essential for all ceremonies connected with departed soul. He called upon the handicapped one by one individually, poured the Alaknanda water onto the palm himself, and asked each to offer it to the departed in grateful reverential remembrance. The Badrinath committee accorded welcome to Baba at a special meeting in the temple premises that evening. His Excellency B. Ramakrishna Rao presided and translated Baba's discourse into Hindi. The audience of 3,000 mainly consisted of pilgrims as well as the merchants and citizens of Badrinath. Baba told them of the 5 lingas brought by Shankaracharya and of the sacredness of Badri itself. He said that the Lord is Prema Swarupa and can be realized only through the cultivation of Prema. Just as all parts of a sugar doll are uniformly sweet, all those who, according to the Vedas, originated from the face, arms, thighs and feet of the 1,000-headed Purusha are equally saturated with his presence and the Prema, that is his nature. Baba described the trials and tribulations of the pilgrims, the expense and the exhaustion of the pilgrimage, and he asked the citizens of Badrinath to learn from the continuous stream of men and women something of the faith of Badrinarayana, which prompts them all to make that sacrifice. He wanted that they should not fleece or foist things upon the pilgrims, but treat them with greater brotherliness and kindness. In the night, Baba arranged for the feeding of all mendicants around the temple on a lavish scale. The scene reminded us of feeding during Dasara at Prashanti Nilayam, for Baba himself served sweets to everyone squatting on the sides of the road, and Baba distributed to each person after food a blanket or its equal in cash, for the stock of blankets in Badrinath shops ran out pretty quick. Thus Baba became in the short period of 3 days the cynosure of all eyes, and when he left on the morning of 18th, people reminded him of the promise he had made the previous evening, that he would be visiting the place frequently in the coming years, and accompanied him and his party for a long distance along the road to Hanuman Chatti. Reaching Joshimath on 19th of June, Baba returned by car to Haridwar on 21st, visiting Rishikesh on the way. It must be mentioned here that the party of about 100 devotees, mostly aged and not quite sturdy, could not go through all the twisting and tossing in buses and all that tramping and climbing among the Himalayan heights amid strange climbs, taking unaccustomed food and come back hale and hearty, happy and contented as per schedule, fresher than when they started, only through the ever-present all-powerful grace of Baba. Kasturi says something more, but I shall skip that and come to the end of the narration. And this is how Kasturi concludes his narrative. He says, returning to Prashanti Nilayam on 4th July, Baba himself graciously described to the Bhaktas the ritual at Badri as well as the incidents of the tour. He gave them too the holy Tirtha of Gangotri, which he materialized for their sake a second time, this time at Puttaparthi. He wanted those who went on a pilgrimage to the holy places must demonstrate in their daily conduct the holiness that has entered their hearts and transformed their words and deeds. Shankaracharya, he said, install Narayana at Badri. Each of you must now install Narayana in your heart. Kasturi concludes, let us therefore install him in our hearts, or rather let us realize that is there already, directing as per His plan our every thought, word, deed, and let us, with full consciousness of the good fortune we have been blessed with, be of quiet content. Well, this has been a rather long talk with homilies to start with, and so many other things to say, including a readout from Kasturi's wonderful book, Satyam Sivam Sundaram. Well, that's all I have for you for this session, and I leave you with the hope that you found this episode and this talk as interesting and as useful as earlier ones. As always, I would like to end this talk by offering it at the lotus feet of our beloved Swami. God bless you all. Jai Sai Ram.